Imagine yourself living in the world of Spider-Man. You're in the heart of New York City, its energy a palpable current running through the crowded streets. The late afternoon sun casts long shadows, and skyscrapers stretch upwards, crowding the sky as you navigate through the sea of people. Your destination is the library on Fifth Avenue, a place you frequent to study, lose yourself in books, and sometimes escape the bustle of city life. Just as you cross the streets, something catches your attention out of the corner of your eye. High above, a figure swings between buildings with effortless grace. The iconic red and blue suit flashes as Spider-Man twists mid-air, launching himself off a skyscraper and into the open space beyond. Moving so fast, he becomes a blur. The crowd around you gasps and points, watching his every move. You can't help but feel a thrill at the sight. An ordinary day disrupted by something extraordinary. Lost in the moment, you don't notice the people bumping into you, but then there's a loud crash nearby. You turn toward the sound. Just a block down, a group of masked figures emerges from a jewelry store, bags slung over their shoulders. Panic ripples through the crowd as the robbers fire a few warning shots into the air, scattering people in all directions. Instinctively, you back up, adrenaline surging as you try to take in what's happening. Then you spot him. Spider-Man has landed on the roof of the store, silently observing the scene below. In one swift motion, he drops down, webbing one of the robbers' guns before it hits the ground. The masked men don't waste a second. Two rush toward him, and he expertly dodges, flipping to the side and catching one in a web-covered fist. It's like a dance, each of his movements precise and deliberate. Amid the chaos, one of the robbers veers off, running straight in your direction. Heart pounding, you search for a way out. But before you can move, Spider-Man is there, landing between you and the approaching robber. With a quick shot of his web, he traps the robber's legs, causing him to crash to the ground. Spider-Man turns to you, giving a quick nod, a silent acknowledgement, before swinging back into the action. The fight is over as quickly as it began. The robbers bound in webbing and left for the authorities. The crowd, once chaotic, slowly begins to cheer, and Spider-Man waves before leaping up to disappear between the buildings. In the aftermath, you're left breathless, realizing how close you came to being part of Spider-Man's world, if only for a moment. As you continue toward the library, your thoughts linger on that brief connection, and you can't shake the feeling that this might just be the beginning of something more. After the excitement of the day, it's hard to focus. Every detail of the encounter with Spider-Man replays in your mind. You walk into the library, trying to shake off the adrenaline, but your senses are still heightened, your heart racing slightly from what just happened. Inside, the library is a different world, quiet, peaceful. The smell of old books and the soft shuffle of people moving between shelves is a welcome contrast to the city's buzz outside. You settle into your usual spot, a cozy chair in a corner by the window. You try to open a book, but your mind drifts back to the scene, to Spider-Man's calm presence amid the chaos. As you sit there, a voice breaks through your thoughts. "Excuse me, do you mind if I sit here?" You look up to see a young man with tousled brown hair and a friendly smile. He's holding a few books and seems harmless enough. You nod, moving your things over to give him space. "Thanks. It's always a bit packed in here," he says, settling down across from you. After a few minutes of silence, he glances over. "Did you see the news about the robbery nearby? Sounds like Spider-Man took down some jewelry thieves." You're surprised by his casual mention of Spider-Man, feeling the familiar surge of excitement from earlier. "Yeah, I actually saw it happen," you reply, trying to keep your voice steady. His eyebrows lift. "You were there?" he asks, clearly intrigued. "That's pretty lucky. Not many people get to see Spider-Man in action up close. What was it like?" As you describe the scene, you notice he's listening closely, nodding along as if he's genuinely interested. There's something about him he seems familiar, though you can't quite place it. He's wearing a simple sweatshirt and jeans, blending in like any other student. But there's an intensity in his eyes, a look that seems to go beyond casual curiosity. He nods thoughtfully as you finish recounting the moment Spider-Man saved you. That's amazing. He's always there, right when you need him, like he has this sense for it or something. He seems to get lost in thought for a second, his gaze drifting to the window. The two of you talk for a bit longer about Spider-Man New York, the little quirks of living in the city. Eventually, you check the time and realize it's getting late. You gather your things, saying goodbye to the stranger who somehow feels like a friend. As you head out, you can't shake the feeling that you'll see him again. Later that night, back in your apartment, you find yourself scrolling through the latest Spider-Man stories. Suddenly, a breaking news alert pops up. Another robbery, this time at a technology lab near your neighborhood. Your heartbeat quickens as you watch a grainy live feed of masked criminals breaking into the building. You recognize the location. It's only a few blocks away. Without thinking, you grab your jacket, your feet already moving toward the door. Something in you feels drawn to it, as if you've been pulled into Spider-Man's world and can't turn back now. You step outside, the night air crisp as you head toward the flashing lights, wondering what awaits you on the other side. You arrive near the tech lab, your heart pounding as you approach the perimeter lined with police cars and flashing lights. The crowd here is thinner than before, and everyone seems on edge, murmuring and straining to see what's happening. Above, the sky is dark, the glow of the city casting eerie shadows across the street. You scan the rooftops, half expecting to see Spider-Man's red and blue suit, but there's no sign of him yet. Suddenly, a loud explosion shatters the quiet night, sending a shockwave through the crowd. The blast comes from inside the lab, followed by a billowing cloud of smoke. You instinctively take a step back, shielding your face from the rush of heat and debris. People scream, some scrambling to move farther from the lab. You want to join them, but something keeps you rooted to the spot. You can't seem to look away. In the chaos, you catch a glimpse of figures inside, moving toward the exit. It's the same masked gang from earlier, but this time, they're carrying strange metallic devices, some emitting faint blue glows. A chill runs through you as you realize these aren't ordinary thieves, they're after advanced technology. As they spill out onto the street, the police try to intercept, but the gang is prepared. One of them tosses a small device that releases a thick, blinding fog, obscuring the entire scene. You feel lost in the haze, unable to see more than a few feet ahead. But then, a faint, familiar sound cuts through the smoke, the unmistakable thwip of Spider-Man's webs. Out of nowhere, Spider-Man appears, cutting through the fog with precise, calculated movements. You watch, captivated, as he swings low, grabbing one of the metallic devices from a thief's hands and webbing it to a nearby lamppost. The crowd gasps as he lands between two of the robbers, blocking their escape with a swift kick to one and a web shot to the other's legs. Suddenly, you notice one of the robbers slipping away from the chaos, clutching a smaller device that seems more sophisticated than the others. Instinct kicks in. You know you need to alert Spider-Man, but he's occupied, dodging punches and webbing up the last of the thieves. You make a split-second decision, dashing forward through the thinning fog, your eyes locked on the lone robber. Before you can think twice, you shout, "Hey, he's getting away." The robber turns to see you, surprise flickering in his eyes. You freeze, realizing you've caught his attention. He raises his hand, and you notice he's holding some sort of stun device, a blue spark dancing at its tip. Your stomach twists with fear, but just as he moves to aim it at you, Spider-Man appears from above, webbing the weapon from the robber's grip and tackling him to the ground. The web-slinger looks at you, giving a quick thumbs up. "Good eye," he says, before binding the thief to a streetlight. The police rush in, taking over as Spider-Man steps back, his gaze turning to you. For a brief moment, You feel like part of the team, your heart racing with the thrill of helping him. As Spider-Man prepares to leave, he gives you a nod. "Stay safe," he says, his voice light but carrying an unmistakable note of caution. You nod back, and just like that, he's gone, swinging up and out of sight. You're left standing there, adrenaline coursing through your veins, realizing you've just crossed into a new chapter of your life, one where Spider-Man knows who you are. In the days following your encounter with Spider-Man, you can't shake the thrill of what happened. You've become part of his world, however small a part that might be, and every moment since feels electrified. Each time you walk through the city, you find yourself scanning the rooftops, looking for a flash of red and blue. It's a quiet evening, and you're heading home from the library when you hear someone call your name. You turn, surprised, and see the same young man from the library, the one with the brown hair and easy smile, walking toward you. He raises a hand in greeting, looking genuinely pleased to see you. "Hey, fancy running into you again," he says, falling into step beside you. His casual, friendly energy feels like a welcome break from the tension you've been carrying since that night outside the lab. "I was just grabbing some dinner," he continues. "Want to join?" You hesitate, but something about him feels familiar and safe. You nod, and the two of you head toward a nearby food cart, chatting as you order and find a quiet spot to eat. Conversation flows easily, and he seems genuinely interested in everything you share. After a while, he glances up, eyes narrowing slightly. "So have you seen Spider-Man around lately?" he asks, a hint of curiosity in his tone. You feel a flash of surprise, but manage a nod. "Actually, yeah," you say. "I ran into him during that robbery at the lab a few days ago. It was intense." He leans in, intrigued. "Really? What happened?" You recount the events, describing how Spider-Man saved you again, how you spotted the last thief, and how he even acknowledged you afterward. Your new friend listens closely, nodding thoughtfully, his gaze never leaving yours. There's something intense in his expression, a spark of recognition that you can't quite place. When you finish, he smiles, a little softer this time. "Sounds like you're making an impression on him," he says, sounding almost proud. You chuckle, brushing off the compliment. "I just happened to be in the right place at the right time," you say. But deep down, his words make you wonder if maybe he's right. The two of you talk for a bit longer, but soon it's getting late, and you both decide to head home. As you part ways, he gives you a quick wave and a thoughtful look that lingers with you as you walk back to your apartment. That night, you're lying in bed, replaying the conversation in your mind, when you hear a faint tapping on your window. You sit up, heart racing, and move toward the sound, half expecting it to be nothing. But there, clinging to the side of your building, is Spider-Man himself. You open the window, and he gives a small wave. "Hey," he says, his voice soft but familiar. "Mind if I come in?" You step back, nodding in stunned silence as he climbs into your apartment. The surrealness of it all makes you feel like you're in a dream. Spider-Man stands in your room, glancing around before turning back to you, his gaze intense behind the mask. "Look, I don't usually do this, but I just wanted to thank you," he says. "You've been helping out a lot lately, and well, I appreciate it. Not everyone would step up the way you have." You manage a smile, feeling a warmth in his words that you hadn't expected. "I just wanted to help," you say softly. He nods, seeming almost hesitant before he speaks again. "There might be more trouble coming," he admits. "Some of these guys, they're after tech that's way beyond simple cash grabs. I'm tracking them, but it's dangerous. So just stay alert, okay?" You nod, feeling the weight of his warning. "I will," you promise, and he gives a small nod in return before moving back toward the window. Just before he climbs out, he pauses. "And if you see anything strange, you know how to reach me," he says, then disappears into the night, leaving you with a newfound sense of purpose and a feeling that somehow You've been chosen to be part of something much bigger than yourself. The next day, everything feels different. You walk through the city with a heightened awareness, replaying Spider-Man's words in your mind. Stay alert. You scan every corner, every face, looking for something that feels out of place. The day is quiet, but beneath the surface, you sense a tension, a feeling that something big is coming. By late afternoon, you find yourself near the lab from before, where the last robbery took place. You're not sure what drew you back, but as you look around, you notice a few unfamiliar faces loitering nearby. They seem to be watching the building closely, their eyes darting to every door and window. Your heart beats faster as you realize they look like the same crew from the robbery, only this time they've brought backup. Just as you reach for your phone to alert Spider-Man, you hear a low, menacing voice behind you. Looking for something? You turn to see one of the masked thieves staring down at you, his gaze cold and calculating. You take a step back, trying to keep calm, but before you can move, he grabs your arm, pulling you closer. "You've been causing us some trouble, haven't you?" He sneers, Spider-Man's little friend. Panic rises, but you force yourself to stay steady. "I don't know what you're talking about," you say, but the words sound thin. He laughs, a cold sound that makes your stomach twist. Before he can say more, there's a blur of movement, and suddenly Spider-Man drops from above, landing directly between you and the thief. "I think you've said enough," Spider-Man says, his voice firm, and with a swift kick, he sends the thief sprawling to the ground. He turns to you, concern flashing in his eyes. "You okay?" You nod, heart pounding in relief. "Yeah, thanks to you." But there's no time to rest. The rest of the gang has spotted Spider-Man, and they charge forward, weapons drawn. Spider-Man glances at you, a silent message passing between you two. "Stay back," he says, then launches himself at the gang, webbing one thief's weapon before ducking a punch from another. The battle is intense, Spider-Man moving like a blur, dodging attacks and firing webs faster than you can track. You watch, amazed, as he disarms the robbers one by one, leaving them tangled in webs or unconscious on the ground. But then, one of them pulls out a device you recognize from the lab, a high-tech energy blaster, glowing ominously as he aims it directly at Spider-Man. Your body moves before your mind catches up. You shout behind you, just as Spider-Man turns, narrowly dodging the blast. Without thinking, you grab a nearby trash can lid and hurl it at the robber, knocking him off balance. It's enough for Spider-Man to shoot a web and yank the blaster from the robber's hands, dismantling it in one swift motion. Within minutes, the last of the gang is subdued, and the police begin arriving, taking over the scene. Spider-Man turns to you, a look of admiration in his eyes. "Not bad for a civilian," he says, a hint of a grin behind his mask. You smile, feeling a thrill of pride, just following your lead. He nods, and for a moment, you both stand in the aftermath, a sense of camaraderie between you. He gives you a final look, something unspoken passing between you. "Stay safe," he says, his tone soft but serious. "And remember, if you ever need help, I'll be around." With that, he fires a web to the nearest building and swings away, disappearing into the evening sky. You watch him go, a mix of awe and gratitude filling you. Somehow, in the span of a few days, you've gone from an ordinary life to something extraordinary. And as you walk home, you realize that maybe, just maybe, this won't be the last time you and Spider-Man cross paths. The city feels smaller, brighter, and more alive, and you can't shake the feeling that this adventure is only the beginning.